Good afternoon. I think we've had a great number of sessions here, and I hope you're having a good time learning some things. I am going to present some of my very best stuff right now, and a presentation that I love to give, and I've given for many organizations. I spoke to 22 Chinese business professors doing a variation of this just a couple weeks ago, and this works for people of all stripes. So if you are calling someone up on the phone, or you're writing them a letter, you're having an initial contact with them, they are thinking, even though they won't say it, they're thinking, who are you and why should I care? And they're thinking about how much time, if any, they want to give to you and your concerns, why what you do is important to them at all. So do you have an answer for this question? What I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you a great tool that was designed by my teacher and mentor and friend Peter Drucker, who is the father of modern management. And Peter's genius was in taking issues that were huge and breaking them down into very concise questions that are easy to understand but take a lifetime to answer. And so I'm going to give you the gift of Peter Drucker this afternoon. The questions I'm going to outline for you are, what is my mission? Who is my customer? What does my customer value? What are my results? And what is my plan? As Peter said, these questions are straightforward and deceptively simple. And this is what our learning objectives are here this afternoon. My learning objectives for you by the end of today are to know these 5 questions. So that's a simple learning objective. By the end of today, learn these 5 questions, be able to know them, be able to remember them tomorrow and next week. But I have a learning objective for you that is bigger than that. My learning objective for you, in Jim Collins, who wrote the book Good to Great, calls these BHAGs, a big, hairy, audacious goal. My big, hairy, audacious goal for you is that not only do you remember this by the end of the day, but you take it home and you think about it, and you have your students think about it, and you have your organization think about it, so that this will actually change your life. And it'll change your students' life. And if that happens, it will change our art, if people learn to think systematically. Max Dupree, who wrote the book Leadership is an Art, said, "We do not grow by knowing all of the answers, but by living with the questions." I tell my students, I'm not the answer guy, I'm the question guy. I'm going to give you some questions that you have to take home and live with. And this is an idea that is as old as Socrates and Plato. So it's questions and answering the basics have run through our whole thought process in Western music. And when Peter Drucker would talk about these things, he designed this for nonprofits. But it's useful everywhere. And what he would say, when I talk to churches about having management utilized in churches, I'm not talking about churches being better at business. I'm talking about them being better at being churches. So what I'm talking about is not to integrate business ideas into music so you can be better business people, but so that we can be better musicians. That's what this is about. So you can use this tool in a variety of ways. You can use it for yourself, you can use it for your organization, and you can use it for a project. So it really works on every level. And I found, even though Peter designed this for nonprofits, where I started using it was individuals when I was at the University of Colorado. And I found with students that if you had 5 questions and you said, this is really the basics of what I want you to think about for your career for the rest of your life, it was very easy to state, and also very easy for them to to develop it. So we'll go through these questions and we'll have some fun with this. The first question is, what is my mission? And so what am I about? What is my organization about? And by the way, if these questions sound really simple, if you say, oh, well, mission, customer, it's easy. This is not easy. This is something that if you think it's easy, you're copping out. You have to think about it. I'm sorry, is my emotion thing here? So think about strengths. Think about your values. What are my values? What are my organization's values? That's not an easy question. Focus on opportunity. And where is there opportunity for the things that I do? Where am I connecting that? What is a good place for me to head? Focus on contribution, and Peter Drucker was huge on this. How am I contributing to my art? How am I contributing to my students? How am I making a contribution? The idea of motivated skills is one I got from a book by Bernard Haldane, Career Satisfaction and Success, and he talked about motivated skills, and I love this concept because it's about the things we're good at and also the things we're motivated to do better. And this is so evident in music, because how many times have we seen someone who's really motivated to be a great musician? Oh, I'm going to be a great musician. And God bless them, they just will never be a great musician because they just don't have the talent. And you know that that's never going to be the case. In other cases, you get a prodigy who has an incredible amount of talent, but they don't have the work ethic. They are not tough enough to really survive in this world. And we've all seen both of those cases. So when you're talking about motivated skills, you're talking about the things that you have talent at and that you have a passion to really drive it home. And you need to know what those things are in your life, in your organization's life, whatever you're applying these questions to. So what is my dream? It's a nice question to think, you know. And musicians, we're dreamers. And in the movie South Pacific, there's a dumb little tune called Happy Talk, you know, and it's a dumb little tune, but it's got a great line in it. If you don't have a dream, how you gonna make your dreams come true? And so, if you don't have a dream, how are you gonna make it happen? Can't happen. So, what are the things that only I can do? And I'm development director for Southwest Chamber Music, and we're a 2-time Grammy-winning organization based in Pasadena. And that's one thing that we're always thinking about, is what are the things that only we can do so that we've got our niche really nailed down. Because if you do the things that only you can do, you don't have any competition. You're really making your mark, you're finding your niche. And so all of these things are part of what is my mission, and none of these questions are simple. So when you remember what is my mission by the end of the day, I want you to keep that hand out and think about these things and progress. And defining moments. In his book, Geeks and Geezers, Warren Bennis talks about defining moments, and I love that, because when you're talking about this, think about what the defining moments are in your life, in your career, in the history of your organization. Think about those defining moments and what do they mean to you. That's really powerful stuff. So, and by the way, with motivated skills, one thing I forgot to say is I looked over at Angela, in Angela Beeching's wonderful book on music and careers. It is a great book. She talks about, with your students, watching for the light in their eyes. And I love that. That really resonated with me, watching for the light in their eyes. And I like taking it a step further. Know when there's a light in your own eyes. And so with your motivated skills, think about that light in the eyes thing. I love that. And finally, what is my current mission? And what should my mission be? And if the answers to those are different, what does that mean? Just asking. And finally, Peter Drucker always asks everyone, what do you want to be remembered for? Think about that too. So you see this simple little what is my mission is a question that you can be driving down the highway thinking about. And it's something that I use every day in my organization and with myself. The next part, who is my customer? It's a term that perhaps a lot of folks in music don't like, customer. It's very, seems like you're selling out to be thinking about customers. Well, with musicians, I look at this in a very broad way, and that is to think about everyone whom I serve. And it's a focus on service. It's one thing that I find many university students are very weak in this area because they're so focusing on me and my skills, and that's great, but you also have to think about an external focus. And this is one thing that really has to happen in this world is for everyone, adults, college students, younger kids, to think about service, think about serving others and who it is. So if I'm in an orchestra, I'm playing bass trombone, that's what I do, and so I think about not just laying a bass trombone part in there and playing it real loud like the other bass trombone players like, but I'm thinking about my section, I'm thinking about my principal player, I'm thinking about the rest of the brass section, I'm thinking about the conductor, I'm thinking about the audience, and maybe not thinking about things all at once, but I know who my customers are, whom I am serving. Thinking about the presenter who booked our orchestra into that hall. I'm thinking about that style of music. I'm thinking about that composer. Thinking about my concept of myself as an artist, my own artistic vision. So I'm thinking about all those things at once and what it means to really be thinking about all the constituent groups who are affected by what I do as a professional. And it's something that is really, really, really necessary for students to think about if they want to have a successful career. After you, so let's discuss, we're a university music department. Who are our customers? And when we're thinking about everyone whom we're serving. So can you work with me on this? Who could start? Parents. Students. Someone besides Angela Beeching?
Trustees.
Trustees.
Taxpayers.
Taxpayers.
Community.
Community. Who in the community?
Local residents, school systems, many, many, many stakeholders in the community.
Right. You get in a community, and anyone who's done community work, you're talking about audiences, you're talking about students and their teachers and their parents, you're talking about business interests, you're talking about cultural tourism, you are talking about any potential funders of the arts in that community, lots of customers. And let's get back to students. When we're serving students, what kind of students?
I'd like to think of the future adult self of my current students.
Excellent. That is so great. The answer, the future adult selves of our students. That I love thinking about that myself. Yes.
I would say maybe a tag on to that, all the students on the campus, especially beyond the music unit.
Great. All students on campus. And we could perhaps think about the freshman versus the senior, and what is it that are those different students just within our own department, but think of all the university students. Anyone else? Yes.
I guess if you're a chair or a dean, your customer are professors.
Right, other faculty.
Other faculty.
Other faculty, and if you're a faculty member, the dean.
Yeah, right.
Anyone else? Yes.
Diversity and inclusion.
Diversity and inclusion, right? So other, diverse groups that you're serving. Yes.
To a certain degree, your customer is the art form.
The art form, excellent. And Leonard Bernstein, I loved his mission. My mission is to serve music and to serve others through music. Isn't that great? So anyway, that is a pretty good grouping of what. But that's a lot. That's a lot to think about. All those groups that we just talked about here. And once you've identified your constituent groups, the next question is, what does my customer value? Now, we thought about all these folks we just thought about, all the community groups, the students at their different ages, different majors. You think about the alumnus, the graduate of your program, and who they are 5 years out, 10 years out, 20 years out, and then you think about the art form and what impact those students have made on the art form. So when you think about who is my customer, whom do I serve, and what does that customer value, that's huge, and that is a process that isn't thought about enough in a very basic way like this. And if people don't, it's a cop-out. We're not doing the best we can if we don't encourage our students to think about this along the line. So what do they value, and what do they expect of me as a professional? Not only what do they value, but how do they expect me to contribute to that value that they want? Question 4 is, what are my results? And think about how we define results. And I loved Taylor's talking about whether it's skills or career. I love that, thinking about that at the university level. Well, and it means that what are the results if you don't know how you define that how do you know where you are, where you're going? And that skills thing, skills versus career, is something that a lot of folks are now starting to pay more attention to the career, so that it's not, and it makes a difference as to whether you see a university degree as being the culmination of a K through 12 education, or as the beginning of a wonderful professional career. And that's a big difference in perception, or as a bridge between that K through 12 education and a professional career. Because if you can think about it as the career, then you're training folks to become adult learners and to really have this being a lifelong experience. So when you say, how do I define results, and how should I define results? And is that answer the same? And if it's not, what are you going to do about it? How are my results measured? And that's quantity and quality. And in the arts, that's very tough. And we need to think about every way. And this is about communication too. So when you're talking about what the outcomes are of your organization or of your education process, what are your results? How many people we graduated at what GPA? Is it what impact they make later on, and what impact is that, and how do you define that? So this is an ongoing set of questions. So, and in how many ways can I get feedback to determine the results? And we're great at this with music. By the way, we're great at a lot of business skills that the business folks don't even know about. And there's a lot of things that musicians can teach business people. One of them is feedback. We play or we sing, we hear it. So we get feedback just by what we do in our ears. We can play into recording devices. We have teachers and friends comment on that. We have a lot of ways that we can get feedback for what we do, and it's something we should just realize that we're good at this stuff. We do it all the time. So how many ways can I get that feedback to determine the results? And have there been any unexpected results? And what do they mean? Anytime there's unexpected success, something that you didn't figure was going to work at all, and it was a great success, why is that? Go find out why that was, so that you can replicate it and you can understand that that's one of your strengths and one of your skill sets, and that you can really run with that. So unexpected success or failure is always extremely important. And then we need to assess actual results to the desired or expected outcome. Here's what I plan to do. Here's what actually happened. How do I learn? If it's not the same, and usually it's not, how do I learn from that in my ongoing processes? Question 5 is, what is my plan? And remember now, your learning objective by the end of this is to be able to state and remember all of these questions. So thus far we've had, what is my mission? Who is my customer? What does my customer value? What are my results? And now, what is my plan? And this is circular. So by the time you get to the plan, and you've been through thinking about your mission, thinking about your customers and those whom you serve, thinking about the results you've had, and you're making a plan, you say, wait a minute, after all, that is the mission, right? Did I get the mission right? Should we be thinking about that while we're doing our planning? Sometimes you need to change your mission. So this is the point to think about it when you're doing your plan. So you need to define goals and objectives, and goals are longer term, general things that you want to do. I want to be the greatest jazz trombone player in the world. And of course, I'm a bass trombone player. That's not going to happen. But this is an example. So an objective would be, in the next year, I'm going to move to New York, and I'm going to look up these people to play with these bands, and I'm going to study with great players. Next, you develop action steps. Okay, I am looking for an apartment in New York, and I am calling up this player and this player. So you're taking the goal, the big goal that you have, defining that into objectives which are specific and time-related and measurable. And then you do action steps that these things feed into the objectives. And then, of course, it really does need to come down to, what am I going to do today? So it all has to come down to work. And without which, as Peter Drucker would say, that without actual work, a plan is nothing but good intentions, and he hated just good intentions that were not realized. And in the end, what do I want to be remembered for? Always think about that. So before I wrap up, I have time for a couple of quick questions before I wrap up things here. Any questions on any of this? All right, well, you go. Well, what I'm going to do is ask you to go home, think about this. Francis Hesselbein, who's the chairman of the Leader to Leader Institute, which was formerly the Peter Drucker Foundation, has this great quote about the self-assessment tool. It's an adventure in self-discovery, a means for assessing how to be, not how to act, not how to think about yourself. It's how to be, how to develop quality, character, mindset, values, and courage. It begins with questions and ends in action. Always has to end in action. So I want you to think about these questions. I want you to imagine what it would be like if all of your students thought about these questions in a very deep and meaningful way. and put them into action. I want you to think about what it would be like if you did this yourself about your career, a corporation of one. I want you to think about and imagine what it would be like if your departments did this in a deep and meaningful way, and so that everyone could be on the same page with what you're doing. I believe it would make an impact in our entire art for that to happen. So, your learning objective, I'm just going to flash that for a section. And I want you to say all with me, what is my mission? Who is my customer? What does my customer value? What are my results? And what is my plan? You answer those questions, and people will know who you are, and they will care. Thank you.